for everybody that's listening or watching, I want you to take a moment, this moment right now, so you can pause this and think, or if you need a journal or write it down, think about who do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be? And I'm not talking about nothing physical, nothing
external.
I'm not talking about no successes. I'm not talking about where you want to live, drive, none of that. I'm talking about internally, who do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be? What do you want to be able to have that you could give, I guess, to the world? Like, what type of person do you deeply want to be? And then figure out how the person you are today is going to get there.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Des.
Hey, y'all, I'm Sai.
And we're the co-hosts of Let's Talk Sis podcast, where we truly believe that together empowered women can transform their lives.
Join us for heartfelt stories, enlightening conversations, and a whole lot of accountability along the way.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. A little tired, but I'm doing good.
I feel that.
How are you? How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel accomplished.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So what are we talking about today?
Wait, before we even dive into today's episode, let's not forget to play a card or pluck a card from the conversation.
Let's Talk Sister, our conversation parking. Can you recall a life-changing moment that we've gone through together?
Oh, I have the answer. I think a life-changing moment that we've gone through together has been relocating. Like, I think that we didn't move here together, but like we went through the transition together.
Yeah.
And I think that this was definitely the toughest thing that I've ever done in my life. So being able to, like, you know, build a friendship and get to know someone in the midst of all of that is really, I don't know. That's probably like the number one thing to date for me.
Yeah. I don't know. Life changing is serious. Like, that's life altering. I mean, actually, so what you said is together, I guess, because I feel like within the last year, my life was very life changing. I feel like my life did an entire 180, and I feel like in different ways yours did as well. And we've experienced
What happened in the last year?
Life changed. Life shift. And I feel like, I know for a fact, actually, we've experienced that together. Kind of piggybacking off of what you said, a huge part of it is definitely being in a state alone, and not being, you know, around your tribe, your family, your friends, and things of that sort. So experiencing, I feel like we individually experienced life altering things, but we just experienced them together.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so today's episode, I really wanted to talk about all things self, right? And I think when I think about self, we often talk about self-awareness, but we don't really shed too much light on different perspectives of self, right? So I wanted this episode to really just dive into, like, self-love, you know? Like, what is it? What is self-love to you?
Self-love to me is filling up my cup. Self-love is making sure I'm at my highest capacity with no external
attributes.
Yeah, with no external attributes. That's self-love to me.
So I have a few questions. What's the difference between self-care and self-love?
Well, I feel like self-care is the action of self-love. Self-care is what you actually do in response to your self-love.
Got you. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
How important is
It's the
self
most
love?
important.
Okay.
I feel like self-love is the most important because I keep saying this, but it's very important that if you're not at your highest capacity, you can't give to nothing or nobody else.
Yeah.
You won't be your best self. You won't be able to feed or fill up anybody else or anything else
I
if you're
definitely agree.
not at the best that you could be. And truthfully, the only person that can put you at the best you could be is you. So that's why self-love is such a big thing, because can't nobody else make you feel the best about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, people can make you feel good, people could, but your biggest critic is always you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that perspective, and I also think that self love is so undervalued within the perimeters of womanhood. I feel like we really just don't take the time to really bask in self love before we start pouring into other people. So whether it be like in companionship or when it's time to, like, I don't know, just show up in the world. I feel like I didn't realize that self love even existed until it was a point where I realized I didn't have any self love. And then it was like I spiraled down this whole self love journey, but that was as a result of it being self love not being present, being absent for so long, right? I don't know. I feel like I wish more women, like, just bask in the idea of not just the idea but the action, and just really took up space when it came to the perimeters of self love.
So what just popped in my mind is, do you think there's a possibility of too much self-love? Do you feel like too much self-love can lead to selfishness?
For sure. Or being self-centered, for sure. I definitely think so.
Okay, so what is too much self-love like? When you think of that, what does that look like?
I have two different, like, things that came to mind, right?
Okay.
So I think that self-admiration can often be misconstrued or, looked at in a negative connotation pertaining to self-love when you're when it's in its purest form of expression, because someone can think that you're being conceited, right? But I think that the other aspect of it is pertaining to being selfish. I think when it is you just solely being, like, self-centered, like only thinking about you, only prioritizing you, and never having a moment of consideration or an aspect of, like, okay, I'm so self-full, like, let me check the environment around me, type of thing.
Well, I was going to ask, so is it a time frame on your self-love? Is there an expiration on how much time you can dedicate and give to yourself?
No.
So at what point do you realize I'm self-full? Like, what does that look like?
That's a really good question. And I think that in order for you to be able to identify what's what and where you are at in your journey, I think that it comes down to the value that you add in other people's life, and, like, your desire of wanting to add that value, right? Because, for example, where I am now and where I was then when I first discovered self-love or went on my self-love journey is two completely different spaces. Like, the person that I am right now, I'm intentionally, like, self-centered. It sounds a little, like, odd, but I feel like that's because I withdrew so much of, like, my energy and time and, like, the consideration, I guess, and all of those other aspects from people, because I feel like I overextended myself for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Whereas
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, whereas though when I was basking in my self-love journey, it wasn't necessarily that I was not thinking about other people or not showing up in that capacity. I was still showing up for people, but I think that it was about me inwardly prioritizing my wellness. I think that's what self-love was, when I started thinking about, okay, well, what do you like? What type of people do you like? What type of things do you like? Like, really just finding out more about myself.
Being on that journey of self-discovery is, I'm starting to realize it's an amazing thing, but it's also kind of a scary thing. And I feel like I'm currently on that now, on that whole phase of, like, completely filling up myself, what I want to do, if I don't want to do, like, I'm so focused on that it's kind of a bad thing at the same time, because I feel like it's still a part of my nature to consider others. So I'm not gonna say I don't consider others at all, but I I go the extra mile to make things about me. In regards to my life and my decision and those type of things. But I feel like I overly, like I'm noticing now how I overly pour into me. And as time go on, I feel less and less and less bad about it. And when I say it's a scary thing, because that creates like a real selfish person.
Yeah.
And I'm so scared to be that person because I don't want to get there and be stuck there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very scary thing. It's a beautiful journey when you know, rediscover and learn how to re-love yourself and re-pour into yourself. And when I say that, it's because as you grow and as you develop, you got to pour into yourself different ways. You got to, you know, feed yourself different ways. And self-care will look different in a different
Just
area.
like the card can.
Yeah, in the different times of your life. But this time of my life I'm in right now, it feels so good.
And I think sometimes it feels too. Yeah, I was just about to say. I think sometimes it just feels too good, right? Like even in moments when I'm consciously aware that I'm like being self-centered, it's like it's not a feeling of, oh, I don't want to consider this other person, or I don't want to go out my way for this other person, but it's literally an instinct, like my first.
See, I'm scared of that. I don't want to get there.
Yeah.
Because now it's like I said, it feels so good. And I'm like overly intentional about doing what Destiny wants, when Destiny wanted, how Destiny wanted, and not trying to consider many others. It's still times though that I like, it's just in my nature, I feel like, where I naturally, you know, think or consider other aspects or other scenarios, whatever the situation may be. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just going further and further off though. Like, yeah, I'm going further
into the sunset of self.
Yes, literally the sunset of self. So I don't know.
I really don't think that's a good place to be though. I think that like everything else, yeah, I was gonna say, I think like everything in life, like too much of anything is not good. And then even when we look at like our nature, our dynamic in which we were, like in the way we were designed to just like exist, we are very much codependent people. We were designed for companionship. We were designed for all of these things. So with knowing that, it's like,
and that's the scary part for me, because I realize I'm getting older. I need to be getting closer to marriage, closer to my husband.
Girl, every episode,
kids. Like,
you're not about to mention this but man.
I gotta mention it because if we're talking about real life here, and like the older
listen, hold on. Let's cut this real quick. Y'all, I'm gonna set Destiny up on blind dates. If you see this and you hear this and you interested, just DM me your city. I'm booking the flights. I'm playing matchmaker. What we gonna call it?
I'm cool.
Wow. That's Love Island. You said you wanted to travel, right? We about to take you around the world.
Europe, actually.
So you only interested in Vanessa in Europe?
British man. It's like, no, don't take this and be like, oh, you know.
Somebody gonna put that accent on him and you gonna get bamboozled. No, but
seriously though, I'm not like looking for anybody or nothing. But what I'm saying is, you know, when you become a mother and you become a wife and all these type of things, that's why I know I'm not ready for motherhood, because it's like I gotta make my whole life about this thing.
Does ready even exist? We had a whole. We literally just had a whole episode about that. Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm saying is. What I'm saying is, I feel like I'm running further from what I need to be coming closer to. That's my.
I wonder if it really just boils down to immaturity and maturity.
I mean, what does maturity have to do with
like prioritizing like the things that you choose to do and your decisions, not necessarily others, but like just the preparation aspect.
Like I wish I was like this like a long time ago.
2 years ago, you was well on your way.
On my way where?
To the altar.
Was I?
Was you not?
Find out on the next episode, guys.
No, but seriously, just getting back on topic though.
Yeah.
I really hope that this conversation promotes or evokes the idea of just really pouring into yourself and really just taking the time. I think it's very, very important for everyone, not just women, but everyone to identify like
What self-love is to you.
yeah.
I don't know if that's what you about to say, but that's what you definitely identify.
No, for sure. But I think that comes in a process of self-discovery. And then also something else that I be thinking about is to think that there was a time in life when I was really just out here like just living, just existing. Like I had no idea about like self-awareness. Like everybody was thinking about the space that I was in. It was not a good space. Like everybody was a problem. I was just a victim always. People were just like, like I wasn't an active participant in anything that happened to me. Even like relating to traumas, I was just like stuck there. Like I'm not like forgiveness was not a thing. Like my heart was very like stony.
That's a great question though. Like, can you think back to yourself before self-awareness was a part of your life,
Yeah.
or before true
What does that look like? Like what did that look like for you?
was a part of your life? For me, it looked like kind of like what you said. Like everybody else was the problem. I didn't cause anything. Like if anything happens, it's on you. Like I was the best I could, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have no faults. Like I was the best friend, I was the best partner, I was the best cousin, sister, daughter. Like it was on you. And I think that's a great thing to talk about. We should probably make that a topic as well, because I truly believed that though. And that's what I mean by some people just genuinely be oblivious.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I knew I did something wrong or I knew I was wrong and just blatantly didn't take
You was
care
just
of
out
brushing
here
it under the
existing.
rug.
Like
yeah,
literally.
I was literally just existing. I was doing the best I knew how to do though. I wasn't just like a shitty person. I was doing the best that I knew at the time.
I think I was just a bad person. Like not intentionally, but like when I look back at it, it was just like you handle people like that. Like now the way I handle people, I'm a little bit more intentional, or at least I'm aware enough to be able to identify immediately after. Back then when I was younger, it was like I just thought that was just like the way, and I don't even want to say that was the best that I knew how to do at that time, because there was resources available for me to like tap in, but I was very just stuck in my ways, and but that was all like a trauma response, to be honest. That was just like, okay, well, I grew up like this, so I'm gonna act like this, or I was treated like this when I was younger, so I'm gonna treat other people like this. Like, even my experiences before starting Dear Sister, it was like my experiences with women, to be transparent, was like terrible. Like terrible. Like I was not a good person.
Yeah. I don't know. I think definitely recognizing that and knowing the growth, and not only recognizing your current growth, but also being able to acknowledge how much further that we can go with the self discovery and self growth. Because even who we are today, we can look back in 10 years and say like, that mindset I had, or that, that thought process I had. So just watching the continuous evolving of our lives is just like,
I think that's also a part of the process of self-love as well. Like loving yourself enough and so much that you're like committed to becoming a better version of you. Like even though you haven't experienced or met that version of yourself that you plan to, be in the future, it's like I love myself enough, like I owe myself this, right? So we become like overly connected to just bettering ourselves, like in whichever capacity that is. And I think that as we continue, our capacity like is broadened, but without self-love, that would have never been initiated for me. And it's unfortunate that I feel like a unforeseen circumstance or situation had to take place for me to even like revert or discover what any type of like self process.
Yeah, it's crazy because even for me specifically, like when I started really diving into self love, I think because personally, I think a lot of things, a lot of my problems, or maybe a trauma response or whatever it is, but a lot of things I go through in life, I literally am like a bottle. Like I bottle everything in. I be thinking nothing gets to me, and I think I just get away with everything. Like with stuff happening, I think I just get over stuff and nothing bothers me. But I literally, I'm not going to say this is me currently today because it's not, but all my life I've just bottled everything in. It's like I just stuffed it and stuffed it in, and then one day I just spiraled. Like I went completely crazy, lost my mind, didn't recognize myself. It lasted for months, and
When was that?
last year actually became
Really?
a crazy person. Yes,
What did you do?
it's just a person that I never recognized myself being.
Last year? Where was I?
Last year, you were actually very present. You were around. You were around. I feel like
Crazy person. What was you doing?
around you? Coming to around you was really like, I guess, an escape. Like it was just like like I don't know. But I definitely became somebody that I didn't recognize though. And I still to this day, I've experienced a lot of things in my life, but I still to this day say like around last year, probably not this time
I was going to say last year?
not this time last year.
Oh, okay.
Damn. Is that 2 years ago?
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. That's why I'm
2 years
saying.
ago. Wow. Time
Yeah,
flies.
that's why I'm like, huh?
Oh, yeah, not last year.
That's why when you said a year ago before, I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened?
Okay. Yeah, 2 years ago.
You just,
2 years
yeah.
ago. 2 years ago. Okay.
That's why I'm so confused.
Yeah,
I'm like, what? I was present. How did I miss that?
No, 2 years ago.
You had me thinking I was like a bad friend or something. I'm like, what do you mean?
Oblivious.
Like, are you that good at like coping? Like,
no, 2 years ago. Time flies like crazy, but yeah, I still to this day say like that was the worst time of my life, and I feel like it was just a buildup of so much for so long, and I feel like I don't blame nobody else for it. It was so personal, but just that outlash, it was just like I said, I didn't even recognize myself, and that was what made me do the more self-reflecting and diving deeper into like how to maneuver through situations in the present moment instead of brushing everything under the rug and trying to just avoid everything and hide or whatever the case may be. So it's very unfortunate that you have to go through things like that though to even recognize like.
But I think that it just shows how necessary trials and like calamity is, and why we have to like endure and go through it. Because on the other side of it, it's always
beautiful,
something good.
The sunset,
literally, the rainbow.
So I do have another question though. So if somebody is trying to start their self-discovery journey or trying to dig deeper into self-love and pour into themselves more and not try to look for external factors in making them happy or making them feel full, what would your advice be to them?
I think that my advice would be different depending on where that person is. I know that this person has not discovered self-love, but I also feel like they could be in a place of like completely oblivious to it like I was, or also just
oblivious to self-love.
Yeah, like unaware of self-love, right?
Yeah, but they are there, but they're curious. That's what I'm saying. A person that's curious, that's interested, but don't know even what that looks like. Okay. Like I feel like self-love is one of those things that we scream self-love, self-love, self-love. But a lot of things that people can't tangibly see or get a checklist on how to do, they don't know where to start. Yeah. So that's my question.
I think if I'm answering your question correctly, my advice would be to, this might sound cliche, I don't know, because this was what worked for me, but like really just seeking the Lord really worked for me, because before I found self-love, like discovered this whole self-love thing, it happened around the time where I was really new in my walk, but also I had this yearn or this desperation. So it was like, okay, if this spiritual, being or whatever the case may be loves me in this magnitude, then how can I not love myself in this magnitude? And then also, if this person who I like or I'm dating or whatever the case may be, or the person who birthed me doesn't love, I feel like they don't love me in this capacity, then what fills the void other than God's love? So I think learning about that earlier on when I was young really is what jump started my journey for me personally. I don't know if that will help. Like, that sounds kind of cliche or cheesy or churchy, but that's my like personal experience.
And I want to piggyback really quick off of something else you said, like even with a partner or someone else loving me, I feel like that's another thing too. A lot of people, and also a lot of women in this, and tell me if you haven't heard this before, but a lot of people don't know anything about that self-love, and they look for it so much externally, and they want to find a man that loves them,
that validation.
Like this. Or even some women have babies to have someone that loves them, so much. So I think another thing we need to add is that you can't expect no one to properly love you if you can't love yourself. You have to
and I think loving yourself really just broadens your capacity to be able to receive it, but not just receive it, to identify it. Like, I didn't realize how much people loved me until I was able to reason and identify the amount of love that I have for myself. Like, there's no much love. Yeah, I was about to say, but there's no amount of love that somebody else could have for me that I will be able to receive if I didn't love myself. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's
that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't be able to even recognize it. You don't know what it feels like. Because some people, that could be, you asked me what was my favorite way to self-sabotage. That's a lot of people's problem, because they don't recognize love when it's there. They don't recognize love when they feel it, and they ruin it or they run from it because it's not something that's normal to them. So,
and I think love is so complex that us trying to kind of put it in this box and be like, okay, well, this person loves me because they do this, or this person loves me because they say this, or this person loves me because they show up like this, or whatever the case may be, is completely different than discovering what you need for yourself to run, like the fuel that you need to run for your, run off of for yourself, but also just being able to identify, okay, this is me, this is how I like to show up for myself, this is why I love me. Because a lot of people, I'm sure, have not told themselves that they love them and can't even explain or elaborate why they love themselves. Some people I know personally cannot even tolerate their own existence. Sit with their own thoughts. No, seriously, some people cannot even bask in their own energy. Some people need music, some people need those distractions, some people need entertainment, some people need companionship in order to really live, because they can't coexist with themselves.
But that's another thing that goes on to the topic of spiritual that you was talking about. People be fighting with demons for real.
For sure.
They can't sit with themselves in silence because their thoughts or whatever's in their head is overcrowding or is tormenting. They can't be only alone because it's depressing or So,
and they kind of have to face reality, and I think that's what this self-discovery journey is all really all about. Not just being aware, but it's this is real life shit. So I hope that there was some takeaways in this episode for you all.
Love yourself, pour into yourself, and I don't know. Oh, we didn't. If you have advice for a sister, for a fellow sister, that's gonna be my advice. Love yourself first, and everything else come after. I feel like I said that before, but love yourself, pour into yourself. Nobody else will. I don't want to say it like that. Well, I guess nobody else will ever love you more than you. You have to love you
absolutely
first in order for you to love anybody else and for anyone else to properly love you.
And my word of advice is going to be, there were so many gems in this episode. My word of advice is going to be, just start the journey of self-discovery. It's the best investment that I feel like you could ever make in a lifetime.
For sure.
And honestly, not only does it improve the quality of the quality in which you are as a person, but it also improves the quality in which you show up. Whether it be a mom or if you're, I don't know, in the workplace or whatever the case may be, it literally is one of those investments that you make into yourself, and the reward is very large, you know? So that will be mine. Just get started on the journey. It can be very discouraging and intimidating and all of those things, but I think that is very rewarding and necessary.
And I want to say really quick for everybody that's listening or watching, I want you to take a moment, this moment right now, so you can pause this and think, or if you need a journal or write it down, think about who do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be? And I'm not talking about nothing physical, nothing
External.
I'm not talking about no successes. I'm not talking about where you want to live, drive, none of that. I'm talking about internally, who do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be? What do you want to be able to have that you could give, I guess, to the world? Like, what type of person do you deeply want to be? And then figure out how the person you are today is going to get there. Yeah, figure out that work that you're going to do. And that's why I said nothing external, because that means the work that you got to do to get there is going to be completely internal. Like, it's all self-work. So yeah, figure out who it is that you want to be and figure out what you need to do to get there.
Okay, and before we wrap this episode up, if I may add another point, I think that really taking inventory of our circle and getting around people who are much further ahead in their process is detrimental, like, is so important to the process, right? I think that for me personally, I was so young and I was so green when I started my journey, right? Exposure really can change your life, because hanging around people who were much older than me and so much farther in their process is the reason why I even was introduced to any of this type of stuff. So I want to add that on and piggyback off of what I said before previously, and just kind of reiterate how important it is to keep like-minded individuals around you. And even if you're not there yet, people that can inspire and uplift you, you know? Okay, well, thank you for tuning into another episode of Let's Talk Sis podcast. We truly appreciate you all being a part of our conversations. And
don't forget to go to www.dearsisterletstalk.com to get your conversational card game as well as your planner. And when you add it to your cart, put in the special code for you guys, DSPOD, and you will receive a discount at checkout.
And don't forget, before you go, before you close this app out or platform out, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on your favorite Audible platform, don't forget to save this for the next episode update, as well as leave a comment below.
Yes.
Bye.
Toodles.
See ya.
Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast, Let's Talk Sis, with Des and Sa.
Stay connected by following us on all of your favorite social media platforms. And don't forget, use hashtag #DearSisterLet'sTalk to find us.
Wait, before you go, head over to our website or our Instagram and join our interactive community for a daily dose of sisterhood, where like-minded women fellowship, encourage, and create a safe space amongst one another.
See you inside, sis.
Toodles.
Bye.